This is beyond language. The great I am presence of all things, what we call God, expanded me back out, and I felt all of the universe within me and beyond, not just the universe, everything that's in the universe and everything beyond our universe. I felt all the galaxies, and I felt our sun. And I felt the sun of Earth within me, and it was churning with bliss. It was just it was alive. And God said to me, this is still what you are. You can never not be this. So before I try to share this story, I just have to say that language is insufficient, vastly insufficient. It's not possible to articulate this. Because language, it's symbols, it's form from our local world, and our true nature, it so fully transcends this entire local context. So I just have to say that first, because it's not like you can just say some words and then you've described it well. It's just so hard to describe, but I'll give it a shot. Okay. So, and I know some of this sounds strange, because I'm kind of I'm a normal person. I worked a mainstream job, and I still do. And 14 years ago, I went through a personal awakening journey when my body was 30 years old. My body's 44 right now. And for the first 8 years or so, I did not share these experiences or these pre-birth memories, because you just don't talk about that kind of thing, unless you want to have a problem, professionally or personally. But eventually I just decided, what am I afraid of? So I've shared it many times now, and I'm happy to try to articulate it, even though it sounds strange. So I remember, so first I'll say that I'll just tell the background for how this arrived for me. So when I was a young child, up until the age of like 5 or 6, I had some pre-birth memory. So I remembered the process of incarnating and choosing this life and why, and I knew that we weren't really from here. Like we were just, playing human, so to speak. We were just coming to have a neat experience, a really deep, rich experience, but I knew we weren't from here. But that memory left me completely by the time I was 5 or 6, and then it spontaneously returned at the age of 30 after I took up a long-term meditation practice. And after a few months of meditation, I began to have non-physical experiences, out-of-body experiences, and they were super eye-opening, very real, like even more lucid and real and tangible than this experience. It was not, there was no doubt. It was so rich. And at about that same time, this pre-birth memory returned. So I'll try to share it, but again, it can't really be articulated. Okay, so I remember long before I had ever even been physical, before I had any physical incarnations, coming across a being who had been physical in the higher realms and experiencing from this being this incredible quality of essence. It's the only way I can describe it. Like his nature was just so, oh my gosh, so beautiful and full of power and joy and love and depth, And I asked him, so in those realms, it's telepathic communication. It's not talking, because we are individuated, but we're also a part of everyone else. We can feel our connectedness. So I asked him telepathically, oh my gosh, like, do you feel as free as I feel that you feel? And do you have this, like, what is this quality? How did you get this, so to speak? How did you become this? And he shared with me many things, but chief among them that he had lived physical lives. And he shared one in particular where he had a long-term health condition, a pain, and that pain lasted with him for many years. And the way that he chose to meet that pain and process it, you could say, or respond to it, it allowed this incredible refinement of his being. Like he had such an evolved quality, such a deep and powerful quality to him. And I was like, oh my gosh, I want to do that. Like, I want to do that. Like I was so inspired. And at first he said something like, yeah, that's what they all say. Like not negative, not criticizing, but just very simply like, well, you just don't know how hard it can be. Like what you're asking, you don't know, you're ignorant to what you're asking for, that kind of thing. And I persisted and said, no, I mean it. I want to do this. So he said, well, go talk to your guides. So I don't have right after that. It feels like millions of years ago. Although I'll also say that these memories also feel like they're all occurring right now. So they're like alive now, even though this feels like millions and millions of years ago. It's hard to describe. But I remember, okay, then I had many experiences after that, many physical incarnations. And I went and found this being later, and he was very encouraging. Like I was showing him, see, I'm on this path, like I'm doing this. Okay, so the majority of my pre-birth memories of a time somewhat immediately preceding this life, I had taken a long break in between lives, and I remember being in this realm of golden light where I was connected to all things, and I could move at a whim and go and visit all these places and participate in creative activities that are very difficult to describe, and it was just a very blissful, connected, free state. And I remember this guide coming to me every once in a while and asking me, are you ready to go back yet? Are you ready to go back yet? And just putting him off, being like, no, I'm not ready yet. No, I'm not ready yet. And finally, him coming, and I said, okay, I'm ready. Like when it wasn't like pestering, it was like reminding me of my own intention, So then I remember reviewing with this guide what I can only describe as my state, like who I was, who I had been, what I had known, what qualities I understood and like had. It's really hard to describe. And there was like this one area that was so obvious to identify, like it wasn't hard to see. It was like, metaphorically, if you looked at a huge graph with like hundreds and hundreds of lines on it, it wasn't really like a graph, but it felt like this energetically. There was this one point that was so obviously like, oh, wow, that's really low. Like, I really should do something about that. It was almost like a joke. And it was this super deep fear that had bested me in a previous life. So in a previous life experience, this fear had overcome me. And because of the fear in that life, I had become, an egoic person, an egoic monster, actually. I'd hurt many people. So I could see like, wow, if I could like really process that and heal that and come to terms with that depth, oh my gosh, that would be so powerful. But I could see even from that side that the level of rigor and the difficulty level, you could say, was so high that I asked, like, is it even possible? Like, has any being ever processed a fear that's this deep in this specific way? And I was told yes. And you have all of time available to you to do so. Like, I knew there was no hurry. And I just knew, like, well, if it can be done, I will do it. Like, I was just very, like, I'll do it. I'll do it then. So then they brought me a life that was very appropriate for that intention to process that fear. And that wasn't this life. It was a life just before this one. And I remember reviewing that life in incredible detail and accepting that life. And then I remember accepting the veil during the incarnation process for that life. So that's just a term we use. So what I mean is, when we come to have a physical experience and to engage in that perspective, we have to forget everything else that we really are. And we have to it feels like being disconnected from the whole. And so what I experienced it as was, in the body of my awareness, an incredible plummet in vibration. Because our true nature is so connected and so it's vibrating at a very high rate, you could say. I know that's difficult to describe or understand, but it's like consciousness itself has like a vibration. And this was like a plummet in that vibration. I like to describe it like if you have like a sound amplifier and it produces a pitch and you turn the knob down, all the way to the bottom, and then turn it down some more, and then turn it down some more, and then turn it down some more, and then more and more and more and more and more. That's what it felt like. Like you feel like an endless drop in vibration down, down, down into this cold, dark, dense, limiting, very limiting place, like being shoved inside of a small metal can. And I was there for a very short while, maybe a few seconds, I don't know. And then I was like, I am not doing this. Like, I am not doing this. There's no way. There's no way. So I just knew I was a strong, powerful spiritual being, and I summoned my might, and I smote the veil. I fought my way back out, and I was successful in doing that, but I came to see that I had killed the body that was to be mine. I killed the fetus. So I caused a miscarriage for the mother in my rejection. My rejection had, I don't know what the word would be like, but severed or something, that connection. And I had a life review for that very, very short life just like near-death experiences describe, even though I hadn't been born yet. And I could see how my fear affected not only the mother, but hundreds of other people whose journeys were made more difficult because of the grief that I caused the mother. Like, I heaped the grief on the mother, and then the mother's journey was harder. And since her journey was harder, it meant that she would take that out and onto other people now. So it's like, so from that side, you can see it's okay. Like, there's not like a failure, okay? But also, objectively, I could just see very clearly, like, oh man, I have a lot of fear. I gotta do something about this. So eventually, I still wanted to do this, so eventually they brought me this lifetime as Christian. And this lifetime, this physical life was good, but it wasn't quite as good as the first one would have been. It wasn't like as perfect of a match. So I'm just making up numbers now, but if the first one was 99% appropriate, this one was like 86, 87, something like that. Okay, so I remember reviewing this life in incredible detail, and it was like reviewing a flowchart that had millions and millions and millions of branches. So it was like if you took a tree and laid it on its side and started at the thick part of the tree and worked your way out to the branches. I reviewed all of these probabilities, all of these possible unfoldings for this life all at once, like in a second. Millions and millions of possibilities in a second. And I could experience what it would be like to be me in those branches. It wasn't just events or actions or, like on Earth, we tend to think like, oh, where did you go? What did you do? I mean, there was some of that in there, but it was more like, what would it be like to be me? What would it feel like to be the human Christian in all these branches? And I remember asking questions and making requests for the life. For instance, I asked to be intelligent again this time. I said, can I be intelligent? Because I knew I had been intelligent in previous lives and I preferred that. And they said, yes, you can do that. And I knew that it would be important that I be male, a man in this life. Not that men have any advantage over women or anything like that. Not at all. I mean, it's just two different energies. In fact, the female energy is certainly stronger in certain ways. But in this way, the male energy would give me like an obtuse edge or something to face this fear. It would be important for me to be able to face the fear. And I knew that my father would instill confidence in me as a child, and that would be helpful so that I would have a rock to stand on when the fear arose. I knew that in my early 20s, it would be likely that I would be crushed by a health condition, and that health condition would give me the opportunity to re-experience this fear. And I knew that it would crush me in a way that I had never been crushed before. So even though that sounds like, masochistic or something, it's not masochism. In fact, it was incredibly exciting. Like, I was so excited at being given the chance to do this. In fact, being given the opportunity to play a human and to live a human life, it was like winning the lottery. Like, it was like all that is handed me $1 million lottery ticket. Like, that's how it felt. And it felt like it was such an honor. I was like, oh my gosh, like, wow. Like, because every Earth life is actually super precious, like a super precious opportunity. And if you are being given the opportunity to play a human, it means it's recognized there is some benefit, some value, or I don't want to make this sound too dry, but even profitability or something, like there's spiritual value for you to do that. And so I was so honored. So I remember there having to be a moment to say yes. And I don't remember that moment, but I do remember then being in this waiting area and this guide coming to me and suddenly grabbing my attention and being like, go now, like right now. And I was like, okay, now. And because I could feel that if I didn't go right now, then because that's like a higher form of time. It's like it transcends linear time. And so I knew if I wanted to like get on Earth time, there was like this tiny little window I had to go like right now. And then I was in this, I don't know how to describe this. It's like a room or a station above the Earth. And I could see the Earth below me. And there was like a shaft, like a pit or something. I could see the Earth below me, and I was in this technical looking chamber with these beings who I can only describe as veil technician people, or veil technicians, I guess. And they're beings who are extremely skilled at veil application. So I know that sounds kind of wild, but like the soul is super unique and rich, and the qualities of the soul are like incredibly unique and powerful. And then every given life, every given body, every given world, every given family, every given culture, it all has its own like energetic thing going on. The biology has its own energetic thing going on, and they do this like match, this fit. So they make the soul and the assimilation content jive. And so I remember them preparing the veil and then asking me one last time, "Are you sure?" And I knew that once I said yes here, I knew I was in for the ride. Like there's no getting off, until the end. So then I remember saying yes, and then I remember the veil plummeting over me. Like I say plummet, like it was put within and on me, but I plummeted in vibration down, 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 down. Oh my gosh, lower, 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 and felt all of my knowing erase. Not erase, but that's how it felt. It felt like I was being cut off from all that is, and that all of my knowing of who I was just removed or disappeared. And oh my gosh! And then I remember being in the body and being completely dark. Like it was dark. I couldn't see. I didn't understand. It felt so empty. It felt so dense. It was like being in the vacuum of space. And I remember sending one message back to the technicians: did it take? Because I knew that even arriving to the physical was a huge accomplishment because it's so vibrationally distant from where we come from. And they sent one message back, yes. So then I was there for a while, and then eventually I'm like, I'm not doing this. This is not happening. There's no way I'm doing this. Like once again, I was just like, I was overwhelmed, and fear rose up, because I felt I had lost all that I was. I felt I wasn't connected to the whole anymore. So once again, I began to summon my might to fight my way out. When I did that, the most holy moment of my life happened. This is beyond language. The great I am presence of all things, what we call God, expanded me back out, and I felt all of the universe within me and beyond, not just the universe, everything that's in the universe and everything beyond our universe. I felt all the galaxies, and I felt our sun. I felt the sun of Earth within me, and it was churning with bliss. It was it was alive. And God said to me, this is still what you are. You can never not be this. And it called me because that's why I was fighting, because I was fighting because I had this fear that I had lost all that I was, but I hadn't. And so I was like, oh, okay. So I stopped fighting and I let go and returned back to being in the state of the body, being veiled and in the dark. So then I was there for what felt like a very long time. And then I remember the day I was born. I remember the sights, the sounds, oh my gosh, just like sensory overload. I remember being touched. I remember being cut, circumcision. I remember being super curious about everything, but particularly like the beings who were there, because I didn't know what was going on, but I knew these, like the nurses, I knew they were beings, and I could see all these beings in the room, and they were like all like doing something for me. I didn't understand it at all, but I felt so much love for them, and I felt so much curiosity. So then at about 10 days old, or 13, 12, was it? Less than 14 days old, somewhere between 10 and 13 days old, I had some kind of respiratory thing, and I aspirated, and my body turned blue, and they put me in the hospital, and they actually baptized me in the hospital because I thought I wasn't going to make it, but I did make it. So that's just a quick summary. There's a lot in there that is connected that is so hard to describe. I try to keep it succinct, and I try to share what I felt guided to share and not necessarily everything, because that's just, how these things are. But yeah, like as I aged, I remember wondering, like, why don't people know? And I remember expecting certain things from the higher realms would be true here. As I found that they weren't true, it was very surprising. It's very shocking. I feel like my whole life, honestly, I've kind of been trying to come to terms with, what are we doing here on Earth? why are we behaving like like this? And like, it's just kind of crazy, like the way the patterns that we've normalized. So many of them are not in alignment with the truth of our being, with love and peace and joy and freedom. We just don't know, and we have a lot of fear here on earth, and so a lot of egoic patterns have been institutionalized, and that's always been kind of confusing to me.
What is your bigger realization when you suddenly remembered everything?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's a great question, and I want to be careful because, again, it's not that form came and it had a realization in it. It was more like I touched our true nature, at least some, even a tiny touch of the big true nature means that that true nature is the realization. So what I mean is, our true nature is completely free. There is absolutely nothing to fear. It is complete love. It is power and joy and freedom without end. It is bliss without end. And the worlds of form exist for us, they're not prisons. They're offerings. They're creations. They're just tools and toys, deep, rich tools and toys, but we transcend those tools and toys. So for me, the realization was, oh my gosh, like, what are we really? And that's what I'm so passionate about sharing. I think it's far more important to share that than my experience. And I'm happy to share my experience, and it is very personal and holy to me, but it is not the important thing. In my feeling, the important thing is to remind each other of what we really are, who we really are, which is multidimensional beings of love that absolutely have nothing to fear. No matter what arises, we have nothing to fear. That is the most important realization. And that can't even be put in words. Like, Harry, I'm trying to put words on it. Like, you can't put words on this thing. But at least I'm passionate about trying, so that, because here's the thing, we all know deep down. The soul knows. Like, everybody that will listen knows deep down, oh man, there is more than this. And when we hear that call of love and peace and freedom and joy, we resonate, because yes, that is the truth. That is who we are. And so pointing ourselves back towards that, even when we are up to our eyeballs in the deepest illusion possible, I think that's so important and powerful, because as we do that, we kind of free ourselves, and we enable ourselves, and we empower ourselves. We start taking our power back, because we realize we are parts of the source. We are drops in the ocean of God. I love the Rumi quote, "You are not just a drop in the ocean. You are the mighty ocean in the drop." That's not just a nice sounding phrase. It's just who you are. So as we really get in touch with that, it means we can free ourselves from the shackles of fear and all the fearful stories and beliefs. Like for instance, simple beliefs that we take so common, like, I'm going to die and there's nothing I can do about it, and I could be obliterated, or I'm shameful, or I am not free, or I have no power. Like, these are common beliefs that deep down underneath everything we think the physical world has proved to us. That's not true. So if we can actually get in touch with that true nature here, oh my gosh. Oh, that is like opening a channel to the true source of power. And then we can actually use this life for what it's meant to be. We can bring love in where we are and live free, no matter what's arising, no matter how much money you have, no matter what health your body is in right now. Like you always have the power to choose how to relate to it. It's kind of a tangent, but it's an important comment. Like, there's so much power in how we relate to the circumstances. I like the Bashar quote, "Circumstances don't matter, only state of being matters." So if we know who we really are, then we can bring forth a state of being that is free. Yeah, like that's the realization. And when I had these experiences, I had out-of-body experiences that were so freaking eye-opening. I remember saying to my wife, like, I didn't know, this sounds ridiculous, okay? This is a ridiculous comment. But I was so passionate about wanting to just tell people, like, you have nothing to fear. Like, this is just a big illusion. We could do whatever we want with this. We're free. Like, that I actually said to my wife, like, I just considered this for 5 minutes. I know this is a bad idea. But I said, maybe I'll just create flyers and put them in people's mailboxes, and the flyers will say you are a multidimensional being of love and you have nothing to fear. I mean, it sounds ridiculous. That's not how to reach people. And, she said, if you do that, you're going to be that guy. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'll be that guy. So in fact, I didn't share even for like 8 years because I had my own fear. Yeah. So anyway, I'm really passionate about that core message, because underneath all the layers and layers and layers of like understanding and ego stories and form and all the things that we love to talk about, the true nature remains the true nature. And that's the most important message.
Yeah, this is difficult for people to comprehend. Nothing to fear, because everybody is afraid, of poverty, of public speaking, of war right now. People are always living in fear. So this is very powerful that you say that there's nothing to fear.
Because for each person, it's unique. We are each individuated, unique, precious souls. So the way that we interact with the world of form and process it will be unique. Okay, but I'll just lift up some key ideas. So first of all those things you named that people are quote unquote afraid of, we think it's the circumstance that we're afraid of, but it's actually the negative self-perception the circumstance seems to prove. So if you're afraid of poverty, it might be powerlessness. I can't do what I need to do. I can't buy what I need to buy. I can't feed my body. I could die. If it's public speaking, it might be fear that you will be seen in a negative way. And so your image, it might trigger a fear of shame or worthiness. That's really, you know what I mean? Like underneath, it's never actually the circumstance. It's always what we think the circumstance could mean. Many don't commonly discern the difference. But the reason I lift that up is because it's very useful to find what is the negative self-perception underneath the circumstance. And when we find it, it will hurt because we're afraid of it. It's not easy to look at, but when we're willing to look at it and feel it, that's the thing. That can be very, very healing and powerful, because it's the willingness to go into the dark closet that allows us to process the monster in there and to heal it. It's not avoidance. See, fear is about avoidance. It's about rejection. We reject, and then we wonder why all the doors are closed, But so I'm just saying love is about acceptance, even of challenge when it arises. So I'll make a quick comment. It's important to take pause then when circumstances arise and just, okay, I notice this feeling in my body. I notice anxiety. I've experienced a heck of a lot of that in my life, especially earlier in my life. I had post-traumatic stress actually in my 20s after this health condition that did arise in my early 20s that I shared that I knew would happen. I mean, I didn't even remember up until the age of 22 for about 5 or 6 years because I was so disassociated. So I know that it's not easy to look in the dark closet, and I know that the ego will bury the root fear under 826 layers of crap. But that's okay. The question is, how do we respond to what has arisen in this moment? That's it. The feeling in the body even. I feel anxiety. Okay, I feel anxiety. Why do I do that? I'm gonna feel that. I'm gonna feel into that and let that be here. And then it might tell you something. Well, you're anxious because this thing proves that, look, see, you have no power. Okay. Wow, that doesn't feel good. Allow yourself to go see it and to question it through feeling and be investigative rather than assume that it's real. So that's one thing I'll lift up. And I'll just lift up one other idea. Okay, the second idea, this may sound unrelated, but it's very much related. And it's specific. I highly recommend taking up a long-term meditation practice. Okay, what does that have to do with fear? A meditation practice gradually increases your familiarity with what you really are, which is consciousness itself, awareness itself, versus what you are not, your thoughts. Okay, so if you don't have that clarity, thoughts are so close to you, they're hitting you right in the face, and you cannot see them for what they are. But as we grow in awareness and greater alertness and greater higher levels of consciousness, you could say, then as thoughts arrive, we have some space. We have a ledge to stand on to kind of question them and say, wait, wow, that makes me feel terrible. That fear makes me feel terrible. But to see it more objectively for a moment, to see basically the form content as it arises more for what it is, which is simply more form. And also, as we meditate, We don't know we're doing this. Okay, we're not trying to do this. In fact, meditation is done without any expectation of result. We're not trying to do anything. But as we explore our own consciousness carefully and alertly and consistently and in a disciplined way, we don't know we're doing this, but we are opening a channel for the deeper parts of ourselves to rise back up. It's like looking away from the movie screen of the physical universe. And when we do that, the peace and the love and the joy that might just bubble up is so beautiful and so empowering. And the knowing of it, touching even 1/1,000,000th of it, alleviates fear because it is the truth. And fear is like a shadow that just evaporates in the light of that truth, you see. So that's just something I want to lift up, because I feel like meditation, not to get rid of fear. You're actually not meditating for that purpose. You're meditating to just go see, what am I beneath thought, beneath all form? Gain familiarity with it. Take the time and the energy to do that. And that shifts the relationship to the form without even trying. Yeah, just two ideas.
All right. Let's come back to the pre-birth memories. You said that it's very exciting to be a human, to live a human life.
Yes.
Why is that so exciting? Because everybody says, people who had near-death experiences, they said it's beautiful on the other side. It's so glorious over there. And people come here to suffer and learn some lessons. I don't know. Why is it so exciting to come back here and to live this life?
Mm-hmm. So the reason we come is not because we want to experience the most beautiful thing right now during the human experience, though it is beautiful, of course, in its own way. The density of it is beautiful. It's like a very dense canvas. I don't mean to make it sound like the physical can't be beautiful, but I'm just saying that primarily it's not like we leave our full connectedness because that'll be better. No, we leave our full connectedness so that we can engage something that we're not, so that we can expand and deepen what we are, which is that joy, you see. So the preciousness of it, the excitement of it, is being given something that is actually challenging. Okay, so now why is that exciting? I mean, I can't think of very good metaphors in the physical, but the closest I can think of is, let's say you're on your couch all day, every day, and you have got great access to food, and drinks, and you're having a party all the time. Everything's easy. But then someone says, you want to go run a marathon, or how about just go for a run? Why would you do that? Why would you go put yourself through stress? Why would you choose stress? Well, because the stress offers you something. It creates a counter pressure. And the counter pressure is useful for the growth of the body and for health and vibrance of being. You see, so being given an opportunity to play a physical character is like being given the ultimate super efficient, super fast, super dense, super in your face, super high density virtual reality engine through which you can actually be challenged and actually grow in profoundly deep ways. That's the gift, you see. So
also from near-death experiencers, they share this.
Yeah.
And they say everything is clear, and they know everything on the other side. They just know everything. They have no fear, they have no doubts.
Yeah.
But you said that you were, before you coming back to be born, you said, I want to do this, but then you had doubts.
No, the doubts were post. The doubt was during the incarnation when I was under the veil.
Okay, so you were already in that high, or low density, low vibration when you started getting the doubts.
Yes, I had already incarnated, and I was in the fetus.
Okay.
And so I felt fear immediately from the limitations, from the constraints that I was wearing. The higher nature doesn't feel that way because it sees the truth. It feels the truth. It knows the truth, that there's nothing to fear. Like, you can't have fear if you absolutely know and feel like, oh, wow, I can't die. There's no way I can fail. I'm completely loved. I'm completely powerful and free. I'm a part of God. Like, when you really know that, like, there can't be fear.
So there is a line. It's actually a line over there of people who want to incarnate. Like,
yes.
thousands of souls or millions of souls want to incarnate on this earth to learn some lessons and to go through these exciting events, like you said. So they have to wait in this line. They have some kind of list, waiting list or something. What's happening? How do we get to be the first one to incarnate out of all these souls?
Okay, well, thinking of it like a linear line is probably a pretty earthly way to depict that, because the limitations in spirit are not the same. But there is such a thing as more souls that would like to incarnate than there are avatar opportunities in a given universe, because the value is so freaking high. So like, it's like when I saw that being who had refined his quality in the way that he had, it was like, that was amazing. That he knew that depth, that he understood that level of being, that he could feel that level of being. That's another way to think of this. What if someone said to you on the other side, there's something you can do where you can feel your freedom 1,000, I don't want to put numbers on it. You can feel your freedom in an extremely new and deep and profound way forever. You'd be like, yeah, wow, sure, sign me up. And the way that we know that freedom forever and actually know it is we actually experience its opposite. You see, the contrast is offering the opposites so that the true nature is deepened by them. It's not like the opposites necessarily are greater or equal to even. They're just a deep illusion, actually. And what's important is how we respond to them. That's what refinement is. That's what spiritual growth is. It's about the choice, the quality of the choice, the quality of intention. And so yes, there's a line that is basically very interested in deep personal and collective growth, a deep personal and collective expansion of what we can feel and know and be. That's what the interest is. It's not like sign me up for some pain. It's just that we know who we really are, and the density that's offered is like, it's so effective. It's so deep and rich and dense, and then of course we get here and we're like, holy crap, what did I sign up for? Because this is no joke. We don't we don't make an uninformed decision when we come here. We have full information. But I will acknowledge that it's not the same to be here as it is to not be here. When we're actually here underneath the constraints, feeling pain, and you've had a rough week and you have a headache and someone flicks you off on the road, do you respond in anger?
Yeah.
Do you feel bad about yourself? That's not as easy, like when we're actually here, it's tough because it's so real. It's so dense, it's so consistent and persistent and in our face. And so that persistence, that consistency, that in your faceness is the value. It's a little bit like saying at the amusement park, maybe this isn't the strongest metaphor, but let's say someone is kind of afraid of roller coasters and they want the power to be taken away from them to get off. Just strap me in, and once they're strapped in, now they're kind of forced to go through the ride. And then when they're done, they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. That was amazing. Right. And it was an incredible experience for them. Yeah, well, they only were able to do that because they weren't allowed to get off, you see. So we actually say something to that effect in the pre-life state. And I'm not, again, this is not masochism. This is hard to articulate in the physical, but it's a little bit like we say to the guides, don't let me out. I mean, we don't literally have to say that. It's just known. But it's like we say, don't let me out, no matter how much I scream, no matter how much I cry, because we see that unrelenting context offers unrelenting opportunity, you see, incredibly deep opportunity. Yeah, this is very important.
It was a great analogy with a ride. It's great because you're trying to say, okay, I'm going to do this. This is so exciting. And then you say, why I'm doing this?
Why am I doing this? Yeah, exactly. And I want to get off. I want to get off, Mommy. And Mommy says, no, you can't get off now.
And then you get to the end of the ride and say, thank God, I'm off now. That's it. I'm not coming back to this ride anymore.
And you don't have to.
Yeah, but another question, Christian. You said that there is a line to incarnate on Earth. All these souls are incarnated on Earth, or are they incarnating on different dimensions, different planets, or whatever?
Different dimensions and different planets.
Okay.
Yeah, Earth is not the only game in town. It's just highly unique.
Yeah.
Earth is actually a very precious place. I remember knowing that and seeing that. It was like the cool. I don't know. It's hard to explain this without like making this sound so vapid, but it's like I was gonna say like the cool high school play. I don't know how to describe it. It's like the corner of the universe where something really unique is being attempted. It's not a small thing. It's not a casual. It's like, wow, if those people can awaken within that biology and that context and really choose love over fear and really process it in like in a couple generations, or a few generations, or however long. I mean, it's not about a specific length of time. That's really powerful, unique. That's a very crazy experiment, because, okay, so I have to lift this up. Our universe is an experience of incredible separation. And the human experience has a very unique cognitive nature, context. So when we can experience this level of separation and then make choices from there, that's really interesting. It's kind of crazy. It's kind of off the charts nuts, because not every being is going to want to sign up for that. Like, why would you want to feel separate from the whole? But those of us who have chosen to do this, whether we remember it or not, are bold enough and brave enough to really participate in that very unique experiment.
Now, Christian, do you remember any of your past lives?
I have some short snippets of 3 specific lives I can think of, and I'm aware of hundreds, but I don't know many details from them. Sometimes I'm curious and I try to go there, and the Spirit's just like, no, you don't need to see that right now.
You don't need that.
Like, okay.
That's too much to worry about here on this planet today.
Yeah.
Right?
It's okay. Like, I mean, yeah, it's fine. I don't need to know all of my previous experiences, but I know of a few. I know some specifics from a few.
Okay, do you know they were in this planet or they were in different dimensions,
I only know of 2 that I suspect were in this planet, one as a human female, and one I know this sounds crazy, but one as a migrating bird.
Yeah.
And I remember at least one that I was in a very intelligent, advanced, non-human civilization. But the thing is, we get super curious and we want to like locate that stuff. This is a multidimensional system. It's very huge. So as interesting as that all sounds, I try to like not look too deeply in that direction if it's not helpful. It doesn't really help what I'm doing here, which is to process this experience and try to choose love and authenticity here as Christian, a human being, apparently, a human being. But yeah, I'm aware that incarnative opportunity set is huge, not just Earth.
Okay, what do you mean by saying, I'm here to play human?
Yeah. Well, I'm here to experience the human experience. And so that means to fully experience all the limitations, all the context. A world where most players are quite asleep, and there's a lot of anger and hatred and powerlessness, and we have economic systems that can be downright cruel. Like we have this whole concept, this rich context here at this point in time. So I'm here to experience this, to be here. Like when I first started having out-of-body experiences, my initial response was, "Oh, that's what I want to do now." That's because it's so incredibly fun. Like being free and seeing realms of color that are alive and more real and lucid and beautiful than anything on the earth, like that's obviously preferable. But that's not what I'm here to do. I'm really here to, and we are here, generally speaking, we are all here to really come to terms with the actual perspective of being human. Like we're here to be human. And we're here to actually come to terms with and integrate our own life experience exactly where it is. That is what we're here to do. Yeah.
All right, you mentioned freedom several times. And the name of my show is about Freedom Show.
Yes.
Can you give me the definition of freedom, please?
Yeah, so I mean, the true definition of freedom is what we really are, which is beyond all language. The reason I say it that way is because, we tend to think freedom is like power to make a choice, and it is. But at the deepest level of being, it precedes all form context. So technically, true freedom is our true nature. Like it's the thing that has no limitations and can make any choice and cannot be harmed or limited in a true sense. Okay, so of course for us, freedom is much more practical. It means what can we choose? Typically, what we mean by it is what can we choose, and do I have the power, the ability to choose what I would like? But there's a level of freedom that is beyond even just the nature of the choice. It's okay. Okay, so the form that has arisen in the physical is neutral. It doesn't have meaning already. So the way we relate to it and the meaning that we put on it and the way that we use it is a level of freedom that we have barely tapped as humans, generally speaking. Like our relationship, in our relationship to form, we find a freedom that is our true nature. Even though even though that seems very subtle and abstract when we start. Like, what do you mean? I got this headache. Like, what do I do about that? I want to be free to get rid of my headache. The first freedom is, how do you choose to relate to the headache, and what do you do with it? How do you respond? You see? And then the body is listening, actually, and the universe is listening, actually, and the physical stuff will shift, actually. But it's not really about that first. It's more about what is your relationship to it, and do you know yourself as your true nature or not? And it's okay if you don't. Like, we are so veiled here. It's okay if we don't sense that true nature and that freedom. It's okay if that's not clear. But we can still always take steps in that direction. So to boil all that down, so like, what is our truth? What is our freedom? It's our ability to choose. It's our ability to wield an intention in any context, within any limitation. Well, what if I can't get up from bed? What if I'm bedridden? What if I'm dying and all I can do is barely breathe? Okay. That's okay. You still are relating to that moment. You still are holding it in some way. You always have some quality of intention, some level of choice. So I want to lift that up, because that is the doorway to the true freedom, which is our true nature. Like the form doesn't hold the fundamental power. Yeah.
Now I'm curious. One more question, Christian. I've noticed that a lot of my guests near-death experiencers, they don't really care about sharing their stories. They just feel like they're doing a favor. Some people want to sell a book or whatever, they have courses, but most of them, I would say 80%, they don't really care. They're just like doing a favor by talking about this. Why? Yeah. What is your objective, incentive? Why are you doing this? Why
my incentive?
Yeah,
my incentive is because every single person listening is my brother or sister, and we're all one.
Okay.
And so it's about returning power to ourselves. I mean, ultimately, we're all one, so it's a returning of the power of the other portions of myself. I love that. Okay. I love me. Okay. That doesn't sound good. I love me. I don't mean me the human. I mean me the us.
Yeah, right.
I love us. I love I love what we are. I love our beingness. And so, like, I've had to choose a certain boldness to share this. There are costs. It would be easier not to share. And in fact, I prefer not to talk. I've done a lot of talking, but I would prefer to be in silence, and I would love to just, I've said to my wife many times, I would love to just go sit by a stream and be alone for the rest of my life. Because I want to connect with that, the precious holy silence, and to just be there with that. But the thing is, life kind of calls us to be there for each other, because we are so service is what we're here to do. You could say, like, we are born to serve. Love is about service, So, my book is for sale, but it's also available for free on my website, because it's not about money for me. I mean, I'm happy and honored if on the physical surface somebody buys my book and I make a small royalty and that helps a little. That's great. And it does help me to get to a point where I can do this more readily. But that's not my intention. My intention is not to make money. Money is going to go away. Like, we're all going to die, and we don't get to take our money with us anyway. So what? So, like I say in Christianity, like, ensure that your treasure is in heaven, so to speak. The treasure is the love that we're able to offer here. And so my motivation is simply like, wow, this is good news. And I am just very, very passionate about trying to remind people of who we really are, even though this is a deep illusion, a deep play, and even though most people do not know, they don't understand. That's okay. I'm going to say it anyway. When I look back, I hope that we can see, not just I, but all of us, we can see that we did it. We did it. We brought love into this place. We chose freedom. That's really what this is about, freedom. Like you said, the name of your show, freedom. So like, why do I do it? Because freedom is good. And the truth is freeing. And so that's a good thing to choose. That's a simple way to put it.
Okay, so do you think that you came back here, you incarnated here, specifically to talk about this subject?
My primary intention for incarnating was to face and process the fear that I shared.
Right, now you mentioned the book. Would you like to tell people where they can find your book or your website?
Sure. Yeah, my website is awalkinthephysical.com. There's a book page on there that has links to the Amazon print and Kindle and the Audible, audiobook versions. The whole book is available for free to be read online for free. At the third link down, there's like a PDF. If you click on that, it'll go to the Google Books and you can read it. The book came to me over 6 years, intuitively, piece by piece. I really felt guided by spirit and with spirit to help make it physical. I don't even actually feel like it's my own. I just feel like I'm kind of, making sure that it's safe and does what it needs to do,
Yeah.
So I'm passionate to share that. There's many talks that I've done that are on my website. Also, my email address is on there. I'm sorry if I can't get back to email. Sometimes I get way more than I can respond to, so I apologize, but it's awalkinthephysical@gmail.com. And yeah.